I've been having way too much fun over the past handful of days 3D modeling and 3D printing a bunch of different accessories and mods that I'm gonna be showing you today for your brand new Elegoo Centauri Carbon 3D printer. It's been really exciting to see that a whole bunch of you that have purchased these 3D printers have started to receive them and are starting to create your own 3D printable mods, which I'll also be showing off in this video. And before we start taking a look at some of these accessories and modifications that you can make, I did have a few updates that I've been hearing that I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of when it comes to the Centauri Carbon. Elegoo did provide a updated shipment timeline, so if you haven't seen that, I have it here up on screen, but it looks like anyone that purchased it within the first minute or two have already started receiving their 3D printers, or it should be actually shipped out here before the end of February. And again, I'm holding out hope that the timelines will actually be bumped up as they ramp up production and shipments and whatnot. So fingers crossed these arrive actually sooner than these estimated dates here. The next one is, I got so many comments about during the live stream as well as in some of the other videos, and I even commented on it that right now you are kind of locked in with Elegoo Slicer, which is a version or a clone of Orca Slicer. However, a lot of us, including myself, want to just use the standalone Orca Slicer, and I'm happy to say that the Centauri Carbon and its profiles are in the beta version for the next update for Orca Slicer, so you can download that beta version and check that out. And if you have the Centauri Carbon, you can slice files with Orca Slicer and send them directly to the 3D printer. And the last one I want to call out is a great post by Kaizen 3D Prints that shared a little tip on if your printer is not leveling correctly, it's more than likely due to the very back where it's going to end up cleaning off the excess filament and going down the poop chute there. It's bumping up against that, and you need to slightly sand it or file it down ever so lightly there, and that should correct this issue. None of my printers have that issues, but I've seen a handful of folks online commenting that they've had the same exact issue, so I wanted to share it here, and I'll have a link to his actual video, so if you want to see that full thing, you can find that. I should also mention that today's video is being sponsored by Elegoo. They are the makers of the Centauri Carbon, which is their new budget-friendly fast Core XY 3D printer coming in at $299.99. They also have an even more affordable option coming in at $199 that is going to be available later this summer. Very much looking forward to getting my hands on that one, and as soon as I do, you'll definitely be seeing it here. If you're interested in this 3D printer or any of Elegoo's other 3D printers or some of their awesome filaments, you'll find links to those down below. Now, the first set of mods and accessories that I want to talk about are ones that actually Elegoo provides to you. And the very first one that you should be 3D printing that comes on the SD card for the printer is a miniature version of the Centauri Carbon that has these little cutouts in the back that you can easily attach to the back of the printer, and it captures all of the poop that it might be pooping while you're printing, which is just a really simple 3D print. And this should really, it's not pooping a ton, so this should last you a while before you have to go off and clean it. However, there are some folks that have created 3D printable poop slides that if you wanted to have it come off to the side, you can do that. The one issue that I want to call out with basically any of those is that the spool holder here is on the same side as the poop chute, so you're going to be kind of fighting the space there on the very bottom for your little poop bin that it's gonna slide down from the back. I'm personally just gonna stick with this for the time being because this has been working just fantastic. This is all of the poop that I've collected since I've gotten this 3D printer, and I printed a lot of things with it. So it's not printing an absolute ton of poop, so you should be fine with this for the time being. But if you did wanna poop one of those slides, there's some links to those over in printables. The next one I wanna call out that Elegoo provides is they actually provide a blade and the screws and a 3D printable scraper so that as you have leftover filament or anything stuck on the build plate, you can easily clean this up. Now, what I wanted to do was slightly modify this because it just stands and sits on your tabletop, but I wanted to embed some holes for some magnets for it so that I could stick it to the side of the printer. So I ended up creating two different variations, one for smaller magnets and one for larger magnets for a bit stronger of a hold. And this just allows you to, again, magnetically attach this to the side of the panel of your Centauri Carbon. Just keeps it out of the way, but still secured right on your 3D printer. And Elegoo also has a secret file that's available over on their website in the download section. I don't know why this wasn't included on the SD card. Elegoo. That should be on the SD card because this is an awesome print file. Basically, what these are brackets that you can attach to the side of your Centauri Carbon, and it allows you to store the actual top glass panel directly in those brackets, so you're not having to worry about sitting it on the ground or resting it on your table or potentially breaking it. This allows it to have a secured spot directly on your printer. Now, what's really cool about this is one of you out there have already gone and modified this file further by adding Buildplate holders directly to this. So not only can you secure that top glass panel, but you also have 3 slots to secure extra build plates that you might have that you've purchased and want to use on the Centauri Carbon. This is such a simple and awesome modification that you can make for your printer. And again, keeps all of these out of the way and directly with your printer. Now, one of the cool things about the Centauri Carbon is that basically any of the X1 Carbon or the P1P or P1S build plates that you've seen from other brands will actually fit and work with this 3D printer. And I have a lot of different build plates that I've acquired over the past few years. So I designed a build plate holder here for all of my different build plate options for my Centauri Carbon. This was based off of Router Corps, I think is the user's name that I saw over on Maker World. So I went on my iPad in Shaper 3D and designed my own build plate holder for specifically the Centauri Carbon. And it works great, holds 5 build plates, no supports needed, very quick print, easy enough mod. And while we're talking about build plates, I think I should also mention that, again, you can use other build plates on the Centauri Carbon, and ones that I really recommend are the BQ cryo plates. These are absolutely awesome when it comes to printing with PLA and PETG and things just adhering and sticking to these build plates like glue. They're fantastic. Sliceworks also has their own variation of these that I also use. Those are also amazing. They're not blue, they're this nice gray tone. So if you don't like the blue, you can go with those. And the other build plate option that I wanted to mention is from Wham Bam. If you're gonna be printing anything like TPU or anything like this, this is their carbon fiber plate. This also works with basically any other material. However, this works incredibly well with printing with TPU. Nothing's gonna stick to it and it easily peels right off. I also have to give a shout out to Ember Prototypes. If you want your own custom made build plate, you can put in an order with them and have one made. And these are just, it is basically as you print, it embeds your logo or your design or whatever it is that you want on your build plate etched in there to actually be transferred into your 3D prints. It's really cool. Now here's one that I honestly didn't even think about until one of you created this file and shared it over on the Centauri Facebook group, which was a caddy for all of the tools that came with your 3D printer, including some of the lube, the glue stick, or if you have flush cutters that you wanted to store on there. You can print this to store all of that on there. And I put some magnets, I just super glued those on the back. So again, I can stick mine directly on the printer and it's right here with all of my machines. So anytime that I need any of these tools, it's held directly here with the machine. Super simple, awesome mod, 100% recommend printing one of these. It requires a little bit of supports, but not many. Now, if you're gonna be printing things like ASA or ABS, or maybe in general, you just wanted a better filtration option for the printer, it does actually come with a built-in crystal filter. I'll have the term there on screen of what it is and a visual of what the actual filter is that's on the printer. However, I wanted an extra layer of filtration on there. So I designed some filter covers that go over the exhaust fan in the back that you can use to further filter out any of the particles or air that's coming out of the printer using these small little filters that you can easily replace, and they come in a bundle bulk option. One of the coolest things that I tried to do was incorporate 2 different design options with this. Again, I had a lot of fun 3D modeling some of these things, either in Shaper 3D or in Tinkercad. And with this one, I created a magnetic version that you can just slap on the back whenever you want to use it. And then the other, for those that don't maybe have magnets, I tried to incorporate the existing screws and bolts on the back of the Centauri. And this is a slide filter option. So you can mount it on the back, and when you're not using it, you can slide the filtration system out. And then when you are using it, you can just slide it on in there and then it's further filtered. And the best part is no supports are required for any of these prints. Really awesome. I also just received, like literally just received my carbon filter pads that were delayed in order and shipping. So I'm gonna make a revision to these models. So there'll be two different versions, one with just the filters, and then another that will allow you to print the, or use the filter and these carbon pads as well. So if you wanted that, again, a little extra layer of filtration, you can use both of them. Now, I think one of the more popular modifications that you're gonna see lots of people 3D printing is this vented top riser for your printer. It allows you to, again, have the glass top stored right on top of there. It also alleviates any of the issues with any pressure placed on the PTFE tube when feeding filament into the actual print head, but it also allows you to have this cool ventilation option that you can have open or closed depending on what you're 3D printing or the materials that you're working with. It also has an angled top surface there so that you can mount LED light strips on the inside. And in this case, I have some very basic ones from Govee here that allow me to control the lights. There's a switch on the side that I can also stick to the side of the printer. And there's even a little plug port in the very back corners for the wire for these LED strips for you to run. They've sort of thought of everything when it comes to this, and it's just a really simple, easy mod. I'm not entirely sure how well this is gonna actually do when printing with things like ASA or ABS that require a really strong internal temperature to be held, because there is still a bit of a gap that you can see with the vented riser here, even when it's fully closed. But it is a really cool mod, and one of the best parts is just making this print without supports. You can press in on the little bottom shrouds there and it will pop free, allowing you to slide these fully open. It's just a really simple, awesome print. Now, if you're not a big fan of the vented riser and how tall that is, maybe you have a limited workspace where your printer's sitting on a shelf or something along those lines, there's actually a modified version of that file that's just the top lip area that will still allow you to mount some of those LED strips in there. I did modify the back files that I'll share over on Printables as well, that has a larger opening there for larger cables, because I have a different light system on this one here than I have on this one, because this one that I'm using is magnetic. But this basically is the exact same thing, just slimmed down, and again, alleviates any of the strain that might be on the PTFE tube and allows you to store the glass plate just like you normally would. A really, again, simple print mod. Highly recommend either of these. I'm almost torn. I think this might be my favorite between the two. The other one looks the coolest, but I think functionally this one probably works best for me and my typical setup where I'm gonna have this on a shelf. Now, again, let's talk about some of the different lighting options. I think, as most of us know, there is just a single light source on the inside here. There are things like these are $10 Govee light strips that I just have that have stuck along the top there. My one concern with the stickable light strips is, depending on how hot this gets, I am a little nervous that the stickiness of those will give out and my lights will fall down. So I might end up looking at printing, or maybe the original creator of this file can make some little brackets there that those can slot into to prevent them from falling down if it ever gets too hot with the ambient temperature inside the chamber. But my preferred light source is a little more bland, but it is this really nice light bar here that you can mount magnetically on the inside of the printer. Again, it's only a $10 light bar that I got off of Amazon. Comes with the actual plug as well to plug it in. A lot of those don't have that. And it also has a toggle switch on the cord. So if you wanted to make it a little bit dimmer, turn it off, super bright, which is way too bright, I prefer the medium light source option, but it fits perfectly there on that inside bar, and then I have it routed up through the back with this vented riser. Two potential challenges that you're gonna run into with any lighting option is just, if it's a light bar, it being short enough to actually fit on the inside there. I prefer the magnetic options. This is one that doesn't actually fit. I use this over on my Orange Storm Giga because the plug is on the end and it adds an extra inch. Just be aware of where that plug is. It's gonna impact you being able to store that on the inside. The other thing is, actually factoring in how you're gonna route the cable out of the printer. Potentially you could do it on the filament sensor, the runout sensor on the side. There is a small opening there, but in a lot of cases, my cables are too large to fit through that opening. So this is where these top vented risers really come in handy because you can route the cables through the top back of those. And this is the standard spool holder that comes with the Centauri that you can just screw onto the side there, and this works just fine. However, someone has already gone and designed a newer version that's slightly longer and has slots for PTFE tubes that you can feed in there and then cut off to allow it to sit and roll better. I was using this one that's slightly longer than the original for about a week now, and it's been holding up just fine. I printed this in PLA+. Honestly, you should probably print these in TP or in PETG or ASA, something a little bit more durable than just PLA. But for the most part, it's worked really good. And it also has this really cool breakaway support option that he's built into the file. So it doesn't require you to actually print with supports. And then once it's actually printed, you can just peel that away. I did go in and further modify this even further because this is slightly longer. However, I wanted one long enough to be able to hold a 3 kilogram roll of filament. So I made one that was just ever so slightly longer there by a few millimeters, a good amount of millimeters, and allows you to, again, do the exact same modification with the PTF tube and mount it directly to the side. I printed this one in PETG and it's been working great. I honestly don't know if inserting the PTFE tubes really does that much of it. Like it definitely, I guess it rolls a little better, but you know, it's a cool mod regardless. If you're looking for a better or longer, I should say, spool holder option, this is a great one for you. Now, currently there's no Elegoo mobile app or anything that allows you to remotely monitor your 3D prints. However, there is a Wise camera mounting mod that allows you to 3D print an attachment for the door and allows you to mount your Wise camera. This is the V3 camera and allows you to directly just stick that right on the front door. So at any point in time, I can, anywhere that I'm at, remotely monitor the activity of what's going on inside my printer. If you're home locally, you don't really need this because you can just use your printer and go directly to the IP address of the printer and view the camera from that source. One other option for you is one of these smart plugs that you can get. There's just a zillion different smart plug options, but again, this will allow you to remotely kill the 3D printer. Let's say I'm gone for the next 2 hours and I go on my camera and see that my print's failing. I can actually stop the print job by killing the printer entirely with this smart plug option. Smart plugs are like 10 bucks, and the Wise camera, I ended up getting a 2-pack for $30 of these cameras. So definitely be on the hunt for some good deals when it comes to these cameras. Typically you can find them for fairly cheap. Don't be going out and spending an absurd amount of money on these. Another option that's not printable that you can run out and buy that's fairly inexpensive are these rubber pavers. These are 16-inch by 16-inch rubber pavers. I picked these up over at Lowe's. I think they're like $6, $7 maybe for these pavers, and they fit perfectly under the Centauri, and it's gonna help reduce some of the vibrations coming from the machine, reduce some of the noise coming directly on the surface of what you're working with, or in this case, this tabletop surface is not perfectly level, and this helps offset some of that unevenness. Now, if you wanted to take this an even step further, you could get a cement paver and put that on top of the rubber paver and then put your printer on top of that. I typically don't do that. However, I know a lot of people swear by that entire setup. This just adds too much vertical space for my printer. The rubber paver is more than enough for my needs. All right, the last mod that I want to call out is one that you've probably seen throughout this video. Is I have a different door system on one of my Centauris. This is so cool. It's probably the most complex of any of the mods that I've talked about so far, but this is a hinge system update that allows you to remove the existing hinges from the Centauri. You can still use your glass door for this as well. Then it allows you to fully swing this all the way open and keep it on the side of your printer. This addresses one of the callouts that I had with the initial machine, is that I wish the door opened up a little bit further than it does, and this mod allows you to completely do that. Now, I do want to call out that this is probably a bit of a risky mod, in my opinion, if you're using one of the glass doors, because this has potential. I have seen people with similar mods on their other printers that have shattered their doors with this. So just be very careful. You definitely don't want to be just using PLA. I use PETG for this, or PETG for some of you out there. I might reprint all of these in ASA as well and get this mounted. The other thing that I quickly saw as soon as I started doing this print mod is I have these plexi doors this is BQ's replacement doors for the X1 Carbon. With a few slight modifications of the original maker's files here, I was able to very easily get a new door modification set up. So for anybody that has received one of these and their door broke in shipping, well, guess what? You can now pick up one of these plexi doors off of Amazon. I think they're 30 bucks, 40 bucks. And then you can print this mod and it allows you to just have those on there. It's not as efficient and not as elegant, I would say, as the original doors for this, but it still has a door handle that I modeled for this in Tinkercad. Did a lot of Tinkercad work on this one. And then on the back, I have a 3D printed mounting option that has a magnet in there. And if you don't have magnets and you wanted to use the original door accessory, the little metal piece, you can even use that with this as well. So again, I was just trying to find a solution for anybody that has a shattered door and is waiting on getting that replaced and still waiting on info from Elegoo and the third-party tool system that they're working with there on getting those doors replaced. This is an option for you that'll cost you 30 or 40 bucks and a few 3D prints and a few bolts there that they've recommended in the file that'll get you set up with a replacement door. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all my Patreon supporters for your continued support of me making content here like this. I'm also working on some new print profiles for the Centauri Carbon that I'll be sharing here over the next week or two as I'm continuing to dial those in for some different filaments that might not necessarily have specific profiles for them yet. And let me know what you think about these print mods and if there are different print mods that you're actively working on or other cool things that could be modded for these 3D printers. So far, absolutely loving the Centauri. I'm a little bit biased, but I am so friggin' excited to see a whole lot of you that have ordered it already receiving yours, and also as excited about these 3D printers and as well as they print for the price points as I'm seeing with this. It's just incredible. Just an awesome deal from Elegoo at 300 bucks for this 3D printer. I forgot to also mention that I'll have links to everything that I've shown off here down below. Definitely check out some of these files if you have these 3D printers. Really awesome, easy 3D print mods for the Centauri Carbon. Hey, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.